Hello friends, for today's video we're going to be chatting through the first 6 episodes of Attack on Titan Season 3. If you're new or don't know, I just want to give a quick heads up. I am actually a week ahead of schedule. I made a breakdown of when I was going to be watching and discussing certain chunks of episodes, and I actually bumped this because I could not wait to start season 3. So apologies if you've been trying to follow along with that, but I am probably going to carry on just being a week ahead. Also, because it's my first time watching through, I don't know when the breakdown I've made ends up working perfectly with where an arc ends and when it is in the middle of an arc, which is what happened this week, and I am so frustrated because I just feel like we're finally on the cusp of learning something, and now I feel I have I have more questions, but it's like I'm getting answers, but with more answers comes more questions, because then I'm like, wait a second, hold on, but what happens when this happens? So if you need a recap, maybe you've watched the show, but you don't recall exactly where we left off at the end of these first 6 episodes. We have left off with Eren chained up. Krista has been taken by her father. They apparently are actually the true rulers, or they're the true royal line, I should say. Erwin has plans to make Krista the queen. Krista's dad has other plans. It would seem we have kind of a big reveal, which is something I've been pondering and wondering about, which is that if you are a Titan and you eat a person who has Titan abilities, then you gain their abilities, which then brings into question how the heck did Eren get his abilities? Anyway, it's such an awful place to leave off, but that's fine. Before I get into the specifics for each episode, though, I do want to mention one quick thing. I have often, throughout this show, had moments where I feel very stupid, which I do enjoy. I like when the storytelling and the twists and turns are done in such a way that you are somewhat in the dark, constantly guessing. It's fun to theorize. You are somewhat proud of yourself when maybe it feels like you're onto something, or you were slightly right, or maybe you nailed it and your theory was perfect. But other times where you just get knocked back and you're like, oh, I'm an idiot. I didn't see that at all. But I had a specific thing this week that I don't want to look it up because I don't want to get spoiled and accidentally ruin something for myself. Maybe I'm supposed to be a little bit like, wait, hold on, wait a second. But I'm like, wait, are Mikasa and Levi related? Because why did I not realize they had the same last name? Do they have the same last name? Am I supposed to have noticed that before? Because this might be the first, just like really, not the first. There have been plenty of times I haven't, I'm sure, noticed something. But this is one where I feel like I should have. And I'm like, wait, am I supposed to have known? And again, you don't need to worry about answering. I'll figure it out, I promise. But before I even got to the part where they were talking through certain bloodlines were able to escape the memory wiping ability, because that's revealed too in this section. And apparently the Ackermans would be one of those bloodlines. And then also, they use the term Oriental, so it would seem Mikasa's family would be one, but I'm like, wait, but she's an Ackerman too. And then I'm like, wait. So I'm a little in the dark at the moment when it comes to that. However, before I even dive into anything involving those two, my husband and I, we were watching this batch of episodes, and after about 2.5 episodes, I was like, we need to take our dog out for a walk. This is relevant, I promise. Little Luna Bear. We were taking her out, and I was telling him, because we were chatting through so far what we had watched, and I was like, not in a romantic way, but do you get the vibe that Levi's always watching Mikasa, or he's always kind of, basically that, he always seems to be watching her or noticing her. And I was like, I don't think it's romantic. And I don't know if it's just, oh, she's really good. And my husband's theory was game recognizes game. And I was like, okay, that could be. They both are able to get things done, and they have the skill to back it up. So it's possible that's all it comes down to. But I was like, I feel like there's something. Like, he knows something about Mikasa, and I do feel like there's something mysterious with Mikasa. We don't really know that much about her family. We don't really know too much about why she went into that headspace of all the animals kill each other to survive, and that whole thing. Like, did that mean something? It looked symbolic, but maybe it meant nothing. I don't know. And then it seems like maybe there was something there, but I'm like, am I onto something, or I'm just stupid and I should know? It doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. But let's go ahead and jump into the specific episodes now. So the first episode would be episode 38, which is titled Smoke Signal. The first thing that happens in this episode and your introduction to the season is just a person that looks to be Eren, but it looks as though they have blue eyes, and they're being very vague and somewhat cryptic. And I'm like, is that Eren? And then I put, is that Eren? I also put, I don't recall Eren having blue eyes. So still in the dark about what that's even about or referencing, which is fine. I'm okay with starting the season in this fashion. But after that, I have a Levi quote, because Levi is getting more time. I did say at the end of last season that I feel like we have had glimpses of how awesome Levi is, but we've not really seen him at his best, and I felt as though we were saving him likely for this season. Maybe we would get him a lot in season 4, but I was like, I really feel like we're going to get a lot of Levi in season 3, and I was right, and I'm so pumped about that because Levi is so cool. But anyway, he had a quote that made me laugh, which he said, he called Mikasa a gloomy brat, and I was like, pot, kettle. I mean, I guess he's not a brat, but he is a little gloomy. I also, because at the beginning of this section, you see they're in this house kind of holed up, and it's almost like the new Levi team. And Eren is, this was pretty funny. Eren's vigorously cleaning, and then the other scouts come in, and he's just like, oh, hurry, Levi's not going to be happy about this. And then when Levi does show up, he gets the bottom of the table, and he's like, I swear I gave you enough time, which I just like that Levi is very clean. But anyway, so that was quite amusing. But regardless, while they're in the house and they're chatting through things, you see a couple of people outside watching them, and I'm like, who the heck are these people? So I wrote who's spying on them, which it seems we get some of that answered for us. And then I put, oh boy, about Pastor Nick. And I theorized, I was like, it was the military police. And then immediately they're like, it was the military police. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they think so too. I really liked, so as they're coming in, they're trying to kind of distract the military police, throw them off a little bit. And they once again use Sean as a substitute for Eren, which I thought was quite amusing. I still can't get over that they're always calling Sean Horseface. And I'm like, I mean, maybe I just am perceiving the drawing differently, but I feel like he's drawn kind of nice looking, so I think it's funny they're always calling him Horseface. But Eren's just like, oh, he doesn't look anything like me, a stupid Horseface. And then Armin they disguise as Krista. And I did say last season, I was like, I feel like there's something with Armin, which we'll get into because there's something that gets said in the next episode that I was like, Armin's parents? I feel like this is about Armin's parents. But anyway, so I noted that I feel as though he has similar features to Krista, and that maybe there's something there with his bloodline too, but we just don't know. Or maybe they knew something, his family knew something, I don't know. But anyway, the fact that they also were like, you look kind of like Krista, and then used him as a decoy. I felt really bad for him because that one creepy guy was all touching him and everything. And later, when you see that Armin has killed somebody to save Sean, he's sobbing and really distraught. And at first I'm like, oh man, is it something to do with how they were treating him when he was held captive? And it wasn't. It was just because he had killed for the first time, which is also very devastating. I mean, I do feel really bad for Armin, and he's very pure-hearted, but I think is also somebody that will do what needs to get done. It just really weighs on him. It weighs on some of the other characters, but I feel like Mikasa is like a cold-blooded killer, is how she comes across. So in comparison, you're like, oh, poor Armin. Whereas when Mikasa gets things done, you're like, yeah, we can rely on her. I don't know. It's just a different feeling across those characters. I also wrote, I like Levi and Mikasa working together, because in this section, Kenny's introduced, and they're after them, and Mikasa, and you see Mikasa and Levi ending up kind of being the leaders of their squad. So Levi takes out a bunch of people on his own. The animation for that scene was incredible. It was also just so cool. I was like, yeah, Levi. But then also Mikasa, I think, having a little bit more to do, and her being able to kind of strategize with Levi, I really enjoyed that quite a bit. So I liked the two of them because they're the best. They're the best. And then I wrote, no, Levi has to watch more of his team die. And I put, oh, angry Levi, because I felt bad that he was angry. But obviously when he's on the rooftop and Kenny shows up, the really awesome scene, the really awesome scene is technically in the next episode, but it all kind of like bleeds into each other. But regardless, he's on the rooftop and he's thinking like, this feels like a trap somehow. and he's starting to realize that, wait, whoever is after us probably would be on the rooftops too, and that's when Kenny shows up, and then he just shoots that girl that was a woman. I don't know how old she is, but he shoots that person that was with Levi, and I was like, oh man. And Levi's just having to watch people die again, and he gets kind of behind the chimney, and then that's when Kenny confronts him, and then he shouts, and I was like, that's the most emotion I feel like we've seen out of him. And I'm excited for more awesome Levi moments. But that leads us into episode 39, which is titled Pain. So I think Kenny, which I gotta say, Kenny's a pretty funny name. I don't think it's as funny as Pastor Nick, but I don't know. But it works for him though, because he kind of has this sort of Wild West vibe to him. And I feel like even this fight scene sort of, it represented this sort of Western feel to it, which I did like, but at the beginning he says kaboom, and I can't hear that word without thinking about Parks and Rec. They're like kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. I wrote Wit Studios is flexing in this, because that scene that I was describing, I got a little ahead of myself, where Levi is just taking everybody out, was great. It was so amazing. It was just a feast for the eyes, even though it was also kind of sad, but it was so cool. It was so cool. And I feel like I've been waiting, because as much as we see them fight titans, we get these bursts where you do see this incredible animation, and then it kind of gets subdued, and then you have to wait, and then you get the next time. But this was just right from the start and incredible, and I loved it. After that, I wrote Levi escaping the bar was awesome. So a reminder if you need one. He gets into this bar again. It's got that saloon feel. So he gets in, and there's this old man that's like, and there's a guy eating a sausage, and it sort of freezes. And then Levi gets behind the bar, and then Kenny shows up, and the whole place, everyone's surrounding the area, and then Levi turns one of the bottles so that he can see Kenny's reflection in it, and that's how he knows where he is, and he takes the shotgun and shoots at Kenny, and then he's like, thanks, old man. It was awesome. But anyway, so then he also tricks the people that are outside and throws the chair and then knows where they are. It was so cool. I did write, aw, poor man bartender, because he seemed really sad and overwhelmed at what had just happened. And I'm like, no, poor guy. Anyway, I also wrote, if you get the chance, kill, and then Roger, because during this whole decoy mission, they do end up, the enemy, getting Krista and Aaron. In order to try to get them back, Levi is telling his squad, if you have a chance to kill, just do it. You don't have time to hesitate. And everybody's like looking unsure and a little frightened at that idea. And Mikasa's just like, okay. She didn't even bat an eye, which I thought was hilarious. And then I was pretty sure Jean was fine. But when he gets on the cart and he does hesitate, and that woman is pointing her gun at him, and I was like, no. And then Mikasa is showing up and shouts his name, and the way the frame is done is you see what it looks like is somebody who has been injured, and they're sort of falling, and you see blood splatter, and then they collapse, but you don't know who it was, and then they go to a different scene, and I was pretty sure he was fine, but I did write, Jean better be alive. And the reason I was pretty sure he would be fine is because when people do die in this show, they just flat out are like, look at them getting slaughtered, isn't it awful? Oh, look at that Titan, they just smashed them. Look at Petro's body, just smashed up on a tree. I feel like they're just faking us out. I think he's fine. He was fine. But also, I don't know why it caught me off guard to see that it was Armin. I was like, oh no, it was Armin. But he did it to save his friend. Anyway, this is when he ends up crying. Again, like I said, I kind of combined my thoughts for episodes 38 and 39. But I also wrote good music during Levi's pep talk, we'll call it. So after the fact, when Armin's bummed that he had to kill somebody and they're kind of hiding out, and they're all chatting, and they've got the merchant with them, and they failed to get Aaron and Krista. And Levi's just telling him, like, well, you're a killer now, so just, embrace it. You can't go back. And the music during that scene was amazing. And it was beautiful strings music that did kind of lean into creepy as well. But I thought it was phenomenal. I also wrote a teacher. Okay, this is the part where I'm like, Armin's parents? So there were 3 things that got mentioned during this part. So a recap, if you don't recall super vividly. Hanji was very upset about Pastor Nick being killed, And she basically said, I'm going to do to you or I'm going to do to his killers what was done to him. And she pretty much follows up on that promise. So they have captured some people, and Levi and Hanji are planning to torture them for information. And the guy is going off about how you don't even understand. It's because we were willing to get our hands bloody that we have kept the peace for so long. Otherwise, you think in this cramped space, people wouldn't start fighting. They absolutely would start fighting. And he starts mentioning people who he's had to torture over the years. And he mentions a teacher too smart for their own good. And then he says a stupid couple who tried to fly. And then the third one was a whore from some ranch in the stick. And I was like, well, that was Krista's mom. She's even in the frame, so I was not surprised about that. I wasn't sure at first about a teacher too smart for their own good, but I was like, Erwin's dad? And then a stupid couple who tried to fly. I was like, Armin's parents, right? That's got to be Armin's parents, which by the end of these 6 episodes, I still don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's them. I'm pretty sure, because Armin has said before, oh, my parents, they really wanted to leave and see the sea, and then they died? And I've always been like, did they? Did they die? Do we know that for sure? I don't feel like we know enough about his family, but anyway, I just thought that was really notable, and then I'm like, what else do these military police know? Reese is the royal family, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Reese? I'm going to say Reese. And I was like, okay. For some reason, I kind of already thought that. So it's an example where I was stupid in the right direction, because I guess I maybe slightly misunderstood when they talked about Krista in the previous season being part of the royal line. In my head, I was just like, oh, okay, so she's royalty. And obviously you can be royalty, but not the literal line that would result in you being the leader. She can just kind of be a distant relative. But in my head, I was like, oh, yeah, that's what she is. So I wasn't too surprised by that. And then the last part I wrote, I put, are Aaron's eyes turning blue? Because at the end of this section, you see Krista's dad, like, hugging Krista, and she's like, ha. And she's pretty still, and Aaron's eyes are open. And I think it was just the scene. I think it was just the lighting in the scene. His green eyes looked a little bit more blue. But I'm also still like, who the heck was that at the very beginning of this section? Episode 40 is called Old Story. And I put Krista's backstory sad. I don't know if I had a whole lot else to say. It was sad, and it's amazing that she turned out somewhat well adjusted, because not the healthiest of upbringings. And then I put, well, Hanji gets stuff done, because she did follow through with her promise that she would get answers and she would do to the people what they did to Pastor Nick. But also, it was pretty brutal when they convinced the one guy that the other guy had turned on him. So then he felt this guilt when he realized, wait, I'm the one that broke. And she kind of rubs it in their faces. And then she gets all up on the bars, and she's like, I hope you enjoy rotting. And she's yelling because she does that. And then they're basically telling her, you're just like us, because trust me, we also thought we were justified in our actions, and at some point you can just keep convincing yourself of that. And she kind of has a look and then walks away, and I was like, she's fine. I love this character, so maybe I'm possibly seeing her with tinted glasses here, but I'm not too worried about her. I think she's always going to be just fine. And then Erwin's talking about overthrowing the government. So I wrote, overthrow the government, let's go. And then I wrote, Reeves' son sucks, because he sees Reeves' son sees Reeves die. And he's like, ah. And you're like, yeah, that's sad. But then when they start arresting all of the scouts, and Erwin, it's assumed, is going to be executed, and he's just like, oh, I can't say anything. I was like, dude, come on, get a spine. And I was so irritated with him, and I was like, he better do something significant here pretty soon. He better make a difference somehow, because him just sitting around being like, I guess they're going to blame my dad's murder on all of these other people, and I'm just like, even though I'm already on the run because they somehow caught wind, I knew, I'm still not going to say anything. And I was like, dude, this guy. So I was like, I need him to step it up. And then I wrote, oh man, poor Erwin, because Erwin was taken, and he was like, I'm gonna avenge Reeves, and also he's just the coolest. And I was like, he better be fine. And then we get to episode 41, which is called Trust, and I was like, Marlo. And I wrote, he'll do the right thing. As soon as they showed Marlo, I was like, oh yeah, I knew, because when he was first introduced, in the end of season 1. It seems kind of wild that he has been absent for all of season 2, but he's been in the back of my mind. I'm like, I feel like that guy's gonna make a difference. I don't think this show introduces basically anybody without having them come in to the picture later. And my theory was that he would somehow help our team because he's just so pure of heart. And so hence my he'll do the right thing. And then I wrote, these two are a little dense because him and I can't remember her name. What is her name? I think it starts with an H. The girl that's with him with the kind of wavy short hair, and she's a little obnoxious, but she's like, oh, that day that they unleashed those titans in the city. And then also, Annie's been missing ever since. And I'm just like, dude, come on. Like, figure it out a little bit more. Which I get, why would she think that it was Annie that turned into one? I get it, but I was like, a little bit, I feel like you guys should have maybe somewhat questioned that your friend, who looks kind of like this giant titan, which you saw, and then went missing and they were not found among the dead, you didn't even, like, suspect. Even if it wasn't putting blame on her, it's like, did they do something to her? Did they turn her into that titan? Was that her? But anyway, later in the episode, the same character was like, she was smushed to jelly so bad you couldn't even find her body. And I was just like, okay. I don't know how to say Flegel, whatever the Reeves' son's name is. I have the spelling. I just don't know how to say it. But I was thinking, he's such a loser. He does end up doing the right thing in the end, but he was a loser for so long. And I did really appreciate when Hanshi was yelling at him and telling him to stop being so pathetic. And how she was so baffled when she's like, that doesn't sound like living. Don't you want to do something with your life, even if it means you might die? And he's like, no. And then the frame is just like, her glasses are gray, like she can't fathom. And then, of course, she just starts yelling at him, which I enjoyed very much. And then I also appreciated another Levi quote when Marlo's like, let me help you. I believe in your cause. I think you guys are doing the right thing for humanity. And Levi's like, what's with this guy? So there's quite a few funny Levi moments throughout this batch of episodes. I also wrote, setting up the military police, I bet. And then, yeah. So finally, Reeves' son, Flegel, or whatever his name is, he runs into that place and they're like, oh, it's abandoned. And I was like, no, it's not. And also we had seen earlier the press, so I'm like, the press are probably hiding. I bet other people are hiding too, so there's tons of witnesses. And I'm not very smart for puzzling that out, but obviously that is exactly what turned out to happen. And my husband, when he was like, I'm the new boss, I'm a merchant, and Sean's like, are we getting merchant vibes, or are we getting kind of like mafia vibes from them? And I was like, yeah. So I'm curious to see where this plot goes. I kind of feel like this is a character who is going to kind of assist sometimes, but maybe be a thorn in our character's side other times. I can see them being helpful and a hindrance at times. But anyway, and then I wrote, they better not kill Erwin. And I said, the people will rebel. So they're getting ready to execute him. And I'm like, no. I love this character too much. There's no way. But I could also see Erwin being one of those characters who's like, I will die. And with my death, finally the people will be free and they'll rebel. And I'm like, don't be one of those characters. Please. I like you too much. Anyway, the next episode 42, is called Reply. I didn't have very many notes for this. I put, don't let a single refugee inside. So when they're kind of deciding if they're going to kill Erwin or not, and then it is announced that there are titans that are attacking. As a result, then the people are saying, these rulers are saying, don't let a single refugee inside. This just brought back all the way memories of, in season 1, the way they talk about the refugees who were coming in from where Aaron lived, and they refer to them as rats. And I'm like, I've always known that these sniveling, prissy people were awful. I've known since that moment in season 1 that we would see their true colors very much at some point. I just wasn't sure when we were going to start to get all of the more political side of things, and I have been so enjoying it. I know I'm almost at the end of these first 6 episodes, and this statement is more so capturing thoughts about everything, but I do want to just say, I don't know how other people feel about these 6 episodes. I can see some people, if they're not into coups or they're not into political plot lines, I could see them being kind of frustrated with this batch of episodes or this start to the season, and also the extreme lack of Titans. But for me, this has been my favorite start. I've loved it. I thought every single episode was executed really well. I like that we're getting some answers. I like that we're still in the dark about other things. I like that there's new mysteries that are being presented and that we're getting characters from before. Even the fact that Reeves came back into the picture, I really, really liked. So for me, these episodes have been a blast. I absolutely loved this start, and I was so on edge because it's just so much, there's so much more to the sinister nature of everything when humans are at the forefront as opposed to Titans just like running at you all weird. Just wanted to state that even though I can see maybe other people not loving it, I've loved these. So, Zachary, I said, was he in the courtroom episode? So this guy shows up, which, by the way, this guy's weird. Zachary shows up, and he recognizes that the nobles and leaders, that they went against the sixth, what was it? Charter 6? There was a rule that says that you cannot care about your own personal gain more than that of humanity's, and so he's saying they've gone against that. So I was like, yeah, set up. I was pretty sure that they were not being attacked by Titans anyway. I was pretty sure that this is where it was all going, but it was still very satisfying to watch it go down. And I wrote, yeah, go Aaron, or not Aaron, he's captured, as always. I put, yeah, go Erwin and Pixis, because I love these two. Then the episode ends with them being like, we gotta get Aaron, otherwise he's gonna get eaten, and Mikasa just looks like super pissed off, and I'm just like, what? What's going on? What's going on with Krista's family? I don't know what they're up to. And then we get episode 43, which is titled Sin. And at the beginning of this episode, you see Krista's father, let's see your sister or whatever, and they touch Aaron's back. And then Aaron has certain memories. And it kind of looks like he turned into a Titan, like his dad injected him. And then he turned into a Titan, and it looks like he ate his dad. But I was like, I feel like his dad is around. Is his dad around? I feel like, because my theory was that his dad was a beast Titan. And I'm like, well, but he wouldn't be, though, if Aaron ate him. I don't know. So I just wrote, I don't know what just happened. Because I don't know what exactly those memories were. But maybe some of my previous theories have just been wrong, and maybe it is just as upfront as it looks, and that he ate his dad. I don't know. Anyway, after that I wrote, wait, was that Ymir's Titan form in Krista's book? So you're getting a Krista flashback, and she's remembering her sister. She used to actually hang out with me and stuff. And she's reading a book, and she's like, what does it mean to be ladylike? And her sister's like, probably it's like being that girl. And when she's looking at it, there's a little girl in the book, and there's a Titan that looks a lot like Ymir's Titan form. I don't know if that means anything or if that was just a fun detail. Also, I wrote, okay, so his dad killed them, and he is a Titan. Maybe, I don't know. And then I wrote, well, Zachary is out of his mind. So earlier, this is why I was saying maybe I'm just biased toward Hanji, because when Hanji was getting information, she definitely tapped into a very violent side of herself. And for some reason, it didn't feel, there's a reason. There's a pretty strong reason. Hanji hasn't been, for years and years and years, dreaming of the moment that she can use this weird torture device. Yeah, Zachary, what's up, bud? What, Am I the only one that had that reaction? I don't think I am. I imagine a lot of you also were like, what the heck? So yeah, Zachary is bizarre, and I don't know that I really want him on our hero's side. After that, is when I wrote, wait, are Levi and Mikasa related? Quote that I noted, the king passes down the power of the Titans from generation to generation. How? How does he do that, though? Like, by them doing the whole, them eating one another. I'm like, that's not the king. And then I wrote, Levi and Mikasa can't have their memories wiped. That was something that we discovered. And then we just end with, are we gonna, I think Aaron's gonna be fine. But I don't know what's gonna happen. So that's where we leave off. I am looking forward to, I think we're actually going to start getting more answers. We're already starting to get some answers. I do like we're starting to learn more about the way in which Titan powers are passed on. But there is a part of me that's now wondering, the idea of the way that Titan powers are passed on, from what they have told us in this batch of episodes, is that a Titan eats, as I said before, a human who has Titan powers, and then they end up having those powers now, the person who did the eating. So what happens if one person who is able to turn into a Titan eats all the other Titans with powers, and then that person never eats another person again, and then they die? Does that mean we finally eliminate all of the Titans, or at least all the ones that have powers, and maybe some sentience? I don't really know about the ones that run funny, but that seems like a logical way to potentially wipe it out, but it'd be a lot of Titan on Titan fighting, which I'm okay with. More Titan v Titan sounds perfect. So I'm not upset about that idea that maybe the last season is going to be a lot of Titans going head to head, and then they're just trying to kill each other in their Titan forms so that they just die out. Right? Or not? Is it somehow still get passed on? I don't know. But it'll be fun to see. I really enjoyed these first 6 episodes. Favorite first set of episodes from these first 3 seasons, which I feel like is an impressive feat because the show has been great, but I just think that what I've said previously about the first 2 seasons is I feel like it builds up into these really momentous things, whereas this season has just been great right from the start. You're getting hints of character backstories, you're getting hints to new mysteries, you're getting some mysteries are starting to slowly unravel, and you're getting the answers, and I love it. I'm so enjoying this 3rd season. We still have so much more to go, though, because it's a little longer than season 2 by quite a bit. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.